Hi guys, welcome to Money Theory. In today's video, we're going to talk about the post-election clarity, why Trump won. This video is sponsored by our Patreon members, Ngon, our new social media app for food, ABC to Vietnamese, our book series to teach Vietnamese to children, and our consulting business. Please check them out at the link in the description below. As you can see on the election map, it was quite a significant victory for the Republican Party. Not only did Trump gain over 270 points to win, but there were a majority of the states flipping red, including all of the swing states, and the Republican Party also took control of the House and the Senate. It makes us wonder what went wrong with the Democratic Party. So the first concept we want to explain is called the political pendulum, and this essentially just means like a regular pendulum swinging back and forth. The control of the government usually swings from the Democratic Party in one term to the Republican Party in another term, with the exception of the incumbents winning. So here's a quick overview from the 1980s. We have Ronald Reagan, a Republican, George Bush, a Republican, Bill Clinton, a Democrat, George W. Bush, a Republican, Barack Obama, Democrat, Donald Trump, Republican, Joe Biden, Democrat, and now Donald Trump again, Republican. The reason for that is whoever's in charge may have some wins, but they also have some failures. And the failures will resonate much more loudly. So they're upset with the current party in power and they'll vote for the other party. Another major issue could be the lack of a Democratic primary. And because Biden was the incumbent, he was instated as the nominee. And then he ended up dropping out, and his vice president ended up taking his place. So having no Democratic primary pretty much says that the voters do not have a say, and the DNC is telling them who to vote for. The next major issue with the Democratic Party is that they are out of touch with their voters and the struggles of common Americans. I would like to coin the term the French Laundry effect, named after Gavin Newsom going to the French Laundry, having a dinner party with his donors, while the rest of Californians were stuck in their homes due to the COVID lockdowns. The most important issues to Americans currently are the economy, such as jobs and inflation, and immigration. And the Democratic Party refused to acknowledge the issues, and they continue to deny it. First, let's talk about immigration. Since Biden came into office, he revoked the Remain in Mexico policy, which allowed open borders and caused a surge in immigration. At first, it was just a localized issue to the border states, but after the border states started to bus the migrants over to other sanctuary cities and states, it became a nationwide issue. I listened to interviews of the local people in New York. A lot of them didn't really care about immigration a few years ago, but after the immigrants were bused to their areas, they started realizing the issue. Now let's talk about the economy. So Biden took over right when the economy started opening back up after COVID, so he took advantage of the recovery effect. And this incidentally gave credit to Biden for the recovery efforts and the increase in jobs. But in reality, it was more so the return of the jobs that were lost due to the COVID lockdowns. Now, unfortunately, due to the money printing from the Fed, this created a lot of inflation. You can see the CPI index. It increased from 1% in 2021 up to 9% in 2022. Beginning in 2023, it started to decrease down to a stable level of 2.4% in September of 2024. The problem with CPI is that it's cumulative, so all the effects of the previous years are still baked in currently. So, quote-unquote, inflation decreased because it's only looking at how it is compared to the previous year. But all that inflation from the previous year is baked into the current prices of everything. You can notice the increase in prices with utilities, rent, housing, mortgage, and food. Now, another type of inflation is called asset inflation, and that is the increase of housing prices and stock market prices. So you can see that the stock market is at an all-time high. So those who have assets that have gone up in prices are pretty happy. But, as we mentioned earlier, the negatives resonate much more loudly than the positives. So the inflation from everyday items are much more painful than the increase in asset prices. Also, in terms of numbers, the assets are much more concentrated in a small number of the wealthy people. So in terms of voting numbers, the majority of Americans don't benefit as much from these asset prices.